Okay, this is going to be a lesson for complex numbers for regular algebra 2. Okay, so in the last units we talked about reducing square roots. Now, if you have, this little negative here inside the square root, basically what that means is you're going to have an I. That stands for the imaginary numbers, okay? So imaginary number, all right? So when you're in algebra 1, they talked about how you can't solve it, find a solution for a square root that has a negative in it. But the square root of 49 is 7, so that would be 7i. The square root of 144 would be 12, so now it's just 12i. Now, if I take the square root of 48, the problem is it's one of these crazy decimals. So I have to break that down like I did before. 2 and 24, 2 and 12, 2 and 6, 2 and 3. Cross off all those. My pair, I can take 1 per circled item. Okay, now, since I have the negative, I just put the I out there. What I didn't circle, didn't cross off is 3, so that's 2 times 2, so that's going to be 4i square root of 3. Okay, all right, same thing here. All right, 175 by 2, no. By 3, no. By 5, yes, I believe. Yep, 5 and 35. And 35 is 5 and 7. Here's my pair. Since I have the negative, I'm allowed to take 1. And then because of that negative, that's I, that's going to be 7. Now, for 10, that's 2 and 5, so there are no pairs. But this will simplify with an I and a 10. So even if you don't have a pair, if you have a negative on the inside, you have to account for it with an I. Okay? So go ahead and try these. Okay? Now let's talk about if you have numbers out front. Okay? All right? Well, so what I'm going to do with that, that's automatically going to go out front. Okay? This is going to be 6i, so I got to multiply that. That would give me 60i. This 7 would automatically come down. Since that would normally be 8, I'm just going to have an I with that, so it's going to be 56i. Okay? This 5 is automatically going to come down, but my square root of 90 in this case is a decimal. So I got to break that down. 2 and 45, 3 and 15, 3 and 5. Okay, so here's my pair. So what I'm allowed to do is take that number from the outside, one of those 3's, and because I have that negative, I got I involved. What I did not circle and cross off was a 2 and a 5. So this is going to be 15i square root of 10. Okay? Same thing here. That negative 2 is going to come down. I got 2 and 16, 2 and 8, 2 and 4, 2 and 2. Okay? So I got a bunch of 2's here. I got this from that part, one of those, and then that negative comes down with the I. What did I not circle? What did I not cross off? A 2. So negative 2 times 2 would be negative 4. Times 2 more would be negative I, and then 8, so that's negative 8i square root of 2. Okay, go ahead and practice these. Okay, now I powers. Okay, here is the concept. I to the first is just going to be I to the second is going to be negative 1. I to the third is going to be negative I to the fourth is just going to be 1. Okay, all right. So the idea here with the I powers is everything cycles back in groups of 4. So here's how you can look at this. 1 divided by 4 is 0.25 as a decimal. 2 divided by 4 is 0.5 as a decimal. 3 divided by 4 is 0.75 as a decimal. 4 divided by 4, there's no decimal. Okay? So here's the idea. All of these trace back to these, which then trace to those. So here's the idea. If I divide 20 by 4, okay, no decimal. So what does that mean? That's really I to the fourth, which really equals 1. 103 divided by 4 is 0.75. Now, which one is 0.75? That's going to be I to the third, which that's going to be negative I. All right, 34 divided by 4. All right, that's going to be 0.5, okay, which that's I squared, which that's going to be negative 1. 17 divided by 4 is 0.25, which basically means that's I to the first, which then makes that I. 72 divided by 4. That's no decimal, so that's I to the fourth, and that's just going to be 1. Okay, 1367, while that looks complicated, just divide it by 4. That's 0.75, okay? So that's going to be I to the third, which that gives me negative I. Okay, all right? So you guys go ahead and practice those. Okay, now let's talk about complex number. Okay, a complex number has a real and an imaginary part. Okay, they are like, you can only combine the reals, and you can only combine the imaginary. Now, if you have addition, what that means is you keep these signs. Okay, you're going to keep the signs. So that's positive 20, negative 7. So 15 plus 20 is 35. And then negative 3i, negative 7 is negative 10i. Okay? Subtraction means that you use the opposite, because that's subtraction. So I got 9 plus 2i. Instead of negative 15, it becomes positive 15. Instead of negative 7i, it's 7i. So 9 plus 15 is 24. Okay? 2i, and that would be 9i. So that's subtraction. So I got negative 2 plus i. That's going to now be positive 13. That's going to be negative 9i. Okay? So negative 2 plus 13 would be 11. I, that's like 1i, minus that would be negative 8i. Okay? This is addition, so I would want to keep those just like they are. Negative 4 plus 1i. So 15 minus 4 would be 11. Negative 8 plus 1 would be negative 7. Okay? All right, so you go ahead, you guys go ahead and try those. Okay, now, this is multiplication or distributing. Okay, so what I would want to do here is multiply. 8 times 7i is 56i. 8i times 3i is 24i squared. Now, the I squared is a negative 1. So what this turns into is that turns into negative 24 with that 56i. So negative 24 plus 56i. You just got to change the order to put the real first. Now, what's this one? Okay, well that's just going to be 4i. Okay, so then I would distribute that. So 4i times 2i would be 8i. 4i times that would be negative 24i squared. Okay, well what is I squared? That is negative 1. Negative 24 and negative 1 would be positive 24. So I got 8i and 24, or 24 plus 8i. Okay? This is regular multiplication. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a box. Okay? Now, here is what's important. I'm drawing this real big. This right-hand corner is going to be a little bit of a thing here. Okay? 10 times 2 would be 20. 10 times 7i would be 70i. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6i. Negative 3 times 7 is negative 21i squared. Now, I squared is negative 1. So I got negative 21 and negative 1. Well, what's that going to combine to? Positive 21. So you really got to do the work there to combine those. So this plus this would be 41. This plus this would be 64. So this right here is my answer. Leave room to do those calculations. Okay, so I got 8 plus 5i, negative 3 minus 6i. 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. 8 times negative 6i is negative 48i. 5i times that's going to be negative 15i. 5i times that is negative 30i squared. Okay, so I squared is going to be negative 1. That's going to turn into positive 30. So negative 24 plus positive 30 would be 6. Negative 15i, and that would be negative 63i. Okay? Go ahead and try those on your own. Okay? Conjugate. Here's the concept of conjugate. Okay? Is whatever sign is here, it it changes. All right, so the sign in front of the imaginary changes. So this would be 2 minus 7i. That's the conjugate. This would be negative 9 plus 5i. Notice the only thing that changed was that. Okay, now if you have this, well, what sign's in front of there? That's positive, so my conjugate is going to be negative 8i. Okay? Go ahead and try those. Okay? Now, this is division. What you have to do is multiply by the conjugate. So this is 3 minus 4i, 3 minus 4i. Now, here's what happens with these problems, okay? This is very similar to how, if I multiplied this, if you did the box with that, watch what happens. This would be x squared, this would be negative 2x, this would be positive 2x, this would be negative 4. This would be x squared. Now, these basically go away because that's 0 minus 4. So what you do when you have conjugates is basically all you got to do is multiply the first and the last. So watch, that's all I have to do, first times last. 3 times 3 is 9. 4i times negative 4i is negative 16i squared. Well, what is I squared? Negative 1. So negative 16 and negative 1 would be positive 16, which makes that 25, okay? So that's what's going to be on the bottom part. This top part, I'm going to do multiplication. I got 5 minus 2i, 3 minus 4i. That's going to be 15. That's going to be negative 20i. This times this is negative 6i. This times this is positive 8i squared. Okay? All right? Now, what does that mean? I did my own bad thing and wrote that too big. Okay? That's positive 8i squared. Well, what is I squared? It's negative 1. So positive 1 and negative 8 is negative 8. So 15 minus 8 would be 7. Negative 20 minus 26 is negative 26. And you don't need to worry about reducing. That's good enough. Okay? So what I'd have to multiply by here is 7 plus I. 7 plus I. Okay? So I can multiply 7 times 7 is 49. Those are 1s. Negative 1 times negative 1 is negative 1i squared. All right? I squared is negative 1. So negative 1 and negative 1 would be positive 1, which that's going to give me 50. So this goes on the bottom. This I'm going to use the box. Okay? So I got 9 plus 4i, 7 plus I. So that's 63, 9i. That's 28i. 4i times that would be 4i squared. Okay, what is I? I squared is negative 1, so that is going to be negative 4. So 63 minus 4 would be 59. 28, and that would be 37. Okay? All right, and that's the division. Okay? Go ahead and try those on your own. Well, actually, I'm going to do one more, I think, right? Yeah. All right. So the conjugate there is negative 3i. Negative 3i. Okay? Well, that's easy. That bottom's going to be, 3 times that's going to be negative 9i squared, where I squared is negative 1, so that's going to be positive 9. Okay? I can actually just distribute that. So that's going to be negative 27i. That times that is negative 36i squared. Well, what do we know that I squared is? It is negative 1. Okay? So that's going to become positive 36, negative 27i. So positive 36, negative 27i. Do not worry about reducing. Okay? All right? And you guys need to go ahead and try these. And that is the end of the complex operations.